Good day, class. So once again, thank you for joining me. And please watch this video in order for you to take a good grasp of our lesson, Developing Instructional Plan for Elementary Science. So before this, you made a 5E. You were shown the 5E model for a lesson plan. By the way, class, in the context lang of this course, when you see the term instructional plan, okay, so this is the guide you will use in teaching your entire course, in the delivery and instruction of the entire course assigned to you, while the lesson plan is just is different in a way that it is your plan, the plan that you make for a specific topic or lesson you will discuss. So before this, you were asked to prepare a 5E lesson plan. But actually, there's also a 7E model for a lesson plan. So here's what I would discuss in this topic, developing instructional plan for elementary science. So I'd like you to gain a deeper understanding of the curriculum guide as the main thing that you would actually use in the development or preparation of your instructional plan. And then how would you make use of this? What are the necessary steps for you to make an instructional plan? Why is it important for you to do an instructional plan? Okay, so this is a very important lesson before you incorporate the different teaching strategies for teaching elementary science. It's important, ang tawag nga dito ay um, backward model, because kailangan mo munang malaman yung big picture. Ayan, yung sinasabing the big picture. Meaning to assess the whole situation, the whole educational system in which we are all part of. Okay, you as a learner right now and ako bilang inyong teacher. So we must be on the same page here. You as a future educator, you must know the big picture before you teach. Okay, this lesson would help you become an effective and an efficient elementary school teacher. So when we also say here the big picture, you must see first the blueprint, the guide. Bago ka mag-focus doon sa specific lesson that you will discuss, you must see first what's the purpose of it, what is it part of, what is the main purpose or goal that you need to achieve. And as stated by DepEd, the main purpose of elementary education is to help learners develop a solid base of literacy, meaning their ability to read and write, numeracy, their ability to work and understand numbers, social, of course, their ability to relate with other people, including their classmates, their teachers, and the community, and their inquiry skills, or their ability to assess or evaluate the things that are presented to them. So they must learn to analyze and investigate the facts and information presented to them. And these are said to be the thing that will provide a strong foundation for lifelong learning. Take note, these are skills, and skills are learned, developed, and developed. As mentioned before, each person has around 400 to 700 abilities and skills, and one must be able to develop that. So kung ikaw, let's say, kung sino man sa inyo, before you were good in playing the guitar, pero for years you weren't practicing it, although you still know how to, pero yung practice actually helps you develop that skill, okay, that gift given to you. So ganun din in teaching, ganun din in science, okay? So it requires practice and training, and that's what you do in elementary education. Ikaw yung mag-build ng foundation for them to understand their lessons in junior and senior high school. Okay. So ako, I specifically remember how excellent my kindergarten teacher is. So during that time, tinuturoan pa mag-gardening, social skills, dance skills, singing, um, syempre numbers and literacy. And of course, my first teacher is my mother. So she taught me how to read and write. So those foundations. So before pa ako pumasok sa school, I already know how to read and write. So those basic foundation, very important yan. Ages 4 to 14, lahat ng ano, na may papasok mo sa kanilang information because those are the ages na nagsasubmit sila. They are very uh, responsive, hindi pa sila may mga kanya-kanyang mga um, ideas na ano, kumbaga ikaw yung pupuno. Pupuno pa lang doon sa ideas na magkakaroon sila and what your role is very important aside from the parents, you as the teacher, kung anong model mo, ano yung tinuturo mo sa yung mga estudyante, they would consider that as something that is good and profitable for them. Okay, example, when you teach them to respect, okay, yung the usual thing that students do, good morning ma'am, good morning sir, and then you ask them to pray and those stuff. Akala natin parang part lang siya ng class or program, pero no, 'di ba sa demo hindi pa rin 'yan nawawala. You know why? Because you're instilling the value of respect inside the classroom. So iba dapat ang treatment mo sa teacher mo because he or she is someone in authority. Okay? So as well as you also respect your students. In what way? Of course you don't just call them names, you don't just you know use mga profanity, pagmumura. So ito talaga, although this is science, but I want each of you to be mindful of how you speak or how you talk, especially sa mga bata. Because ngayon parang cool pa yung pagmumura, no? Yung pagdi-disrespect. It seems cool, but no, it isn't. That would affect their lifelong learning. Okay? And you as a teacher, part yan ng ating ethics. Okay? So you must be the model in values, in the skills. Of course, kaya ka nga teacher because it means that you have what? You know what you are teaching about. Okay? So I'm a senior high school teacher too. So I have encountered different students nung pumasok sila sa Bicol University senior high school. They're all honor students from different parts of the Bicol region. And you would really encounter students who would question and ask about the topic you are discussing. Pero kung ikaw na teacher, you are not prepared, then what answer would you give them? You cannot give what you do not have. So the proficiency, the mastery of the subject that you're teaching is something that you must be also mindful of. Okay? So in teaching, there's no room for turo lang agad, walang plano-plano. So in my experience, teaching really requires a lot of preparation. And part of this preparation is the development of your instructional plan. You see, as you teach science, you're not just teaching one branch, actually, especially elementary science. Because elementary science, you will be teaching biology, chemistry, physics, earth science, earth and space, to be in particular, and a portion of meteorology. So meteorology sometimes is under environmental science or earth science kasi nandun siya sa atmosphere. So atmospheric conditions. So what I'm trying to say is science is multifaceted. It includes different branches of science. It includes different aspects. So hindi lang knowledge. Oh, so what if, ano, I mean, so what about kung ang distance ng sun ay ganito sa earth? So is that yun lang ba ang ituturo mo sa mga estudyante mo, yung distance? And that they memorize that this is how the earth revolves or ganyan. So they should be able to make use of that information in their daily lives. Later, I'm going to show you an example of how it was used by a chemist in developing his argument or claim that as a scientist, he believes in God. Okay, so understanding science is multifaceted. Current research indicates that proficiency in one aspect of science is closely related to proficiency in others. So when we say proficiency, what do you understand about that word when you say you are proficient in something? Okay, so proficiency is defined as when you're proficient, you are well advanced. You have what? You're adept, you're good at, you're experienced, educated, you have practiced it, you are skilled. So your skill in science is also closely related to proficiency in others. Okay, so you as an elementary teacher, these are the things that you should look for or observe sa proficiency ng iyong mga estudyante in science. The first one is they should know, use, and interpret scientific explanations. So science is all about scientific explanations and the supporting evidence or proof given to that explanation. Kaya scientific method is used. Okay? So, once you are curious about something, doon naman nag-i-start, di ba? Yung discovery or inventions. They're curious about something. They want something to be solved or yeah, to aid sa isang bagay na they think there's a need to. So, they what? They try to um, gain information about it, observe it, know it, use it, and then interpret those scientific explanations. They generate and evaluate scientific evidence and explanations. So in science, you will be presented with different theories, claims, explanations. But then you have to evaluate each of those. Alin ba doon? So the students must be able to select. And then they should also be able to reason out bakit yun yung explanation na kanilang pinapaniwalaan. Okay. Is it a reliable? Is that an acceptable claim? Are there no conflicting uh, results or evidence or study? Ayan. So, ganyan po class ang pag-evaluate ng mga scientific evidence and explanations. Like when I thought about the origins of the universe. So I have presented them with 10 theories of the origin ng universe. Yung isa doon was presented by the son of Charles Darwin. At isa sa kanya mga claim ay although that is already obsolete at hindi siya acceptable by the scientific community, when they reviewed the evidence and explanation he presented, si George Darwin said that the moon came from the Pacific Ocean. So a portion from the geosphere ay parang na-extract sa Earth, and that became the moon. So that was his what? Parang yun yung kanyang theory. But you see, it was not accepted. It wasn't accepted and denied, and hindi siya inaccept ng whole scientific community. So parang ganon, you're gonna present your students with different theories, but then they have to evaluate the information presented to them. Parang ganon din sa social media. Ganon din naman sa iba't ibang communication. Presentan ka ng ganyang words, set of words, and then you already concluded about someone else says attitude, or you have already concluded na ganito siya or yung binalita ay totoo without getting sufficient, truthful, and wide scale na evidence. So you can't just do that. You can't just generate and conclude in science without presenting and studying the evidence presented and explanation. Okay? So ito ay ma-apply mo din to sa ibang bagay, hindi lang sa science. Okay? As I've mentioned, in all other sort of communication and information presented to you. The third is understand the nature and development of scientific knowledge. That's why in science, magtataka kayo, and in all other, in some subjects, the history and background is always presented. It's so important to know how they arrived to that particular conclusion or fact. Diba? Because there are many wisdom and knowledge doon sa background and history kung paano na-develop ang isang particular fact or information that we have right now. Just like the discovery of the cell. If you study the history of how it was discovered, paano nila na-determine na, hindi lang pala cork. Kasi dead na yung pinag-aralan na cork ni Robert Hooke. So, yung ibang scientists, they explored, meron din palang cell yung plants at meron din parang cell yung animals. Okay, so yung mga ganong bagay. So, that would stir the curiosity of your students, especially the kids. Na the things that they see around, there's something to be discovered in them. So, hindi lamang nila yun makikita when they just watch the video or when they play mobile games. There are so many things to be discovered around them, and they could learn a lot from those. The fourth is participate productively. Take note, productively in scientific practices. When we say productively, you make use of the knowledge now, the information, the values, the skills that you get. That's why you can now participate productively. So the question is, there are many students, according to a survey, mahina daw or low yung nakukuhang results in science and math. So siguro ito yung kailangan nyo i-watch out in the next generation. Kamusta ang kanilang pag-know, use, and interpret ng scientific explanation, pag-generate na and evaluate and appreciate nito? Do they really understand the concepts so that they could participate productively in scientific practices, whether it's a test, it's an experiment, it is something that they could apply in their everyday lives, just like how they must protect their health, the environment, and so on and so forth. So may yielding results, may benefits, may profits ang mga bata na dapat ma-realize nila, I would profit from learning science. Okay, so now I also want you to put that in your mind as teachers. I want you to see these lessons presented to you here as something that is profitable to you, or else wala, you will not appreciate it. So as mentioned earlier, these 4 proficiencies I've mentioned could be applied here in critiquing this excerpt from the book of Cressy Morrison entitled 7 Reasons Why a Scientist Believes in God. And here, he presented scientific explanations, and then he evaluated this scientific explanations, and he concluded something from it. And he also provided the scientific evidences. And I believe this belief of him ay ginamit niya sa kanyang practices. Okay? So, ang kanyang belief, okay, is that there are many theories kung saan nagsimula ang mundo and the universe. But for him, he believes in the creationism view. Creationism is the view that there is a God who created all living things, all things that exist here on earth and beyond. So for him, he believes in that. He is a Bible believer, and he is a scientist as well. So he explained his claim was supported by evidences from his study as a scientist. So first, he presented here that here's his claim. So you see here, class, ito yung mga evidences na ito yung claim niya, that there is someone, okay, who designed the universe and executed a great engineering intelligence. So sabi niya, he believes that there is a God because his first claim is ito yung supporting pala niya, supporting explanations niya to his belief. By unwavering mathematical law, we can prove that our universe was designed, was designed and executed by a great engineering intelligence. So sabi niya, applying the mathematical law, his knowledge about the mathematical law and engineering, ay masasabi niyang, these things, this would, for him, he doesn't believe in yung theory na randomly nag-connect yung mga elements and the mga things in this world and that form that resulted to the formation of organisms. For him, it wasn't so. Okay, so here he applied the probability. And as you notice, sabi niya, suppose daw mayroong 10 coins and yung coins na yun ay may number na from 1 to 10. Okay? So, if you put it inside your pocket, so sabi niya, yung probability that you will get yung sequence na 1, okay? So, pagbunot mo na 1 ang makukuha mo, the chances of drawing number 1, the first drawing number 1 is 1 in 10. Okay? Ngayon naman, yung magkasunod na mabunot mo ay magkasunod ang 1 and 2, yung probability that you will draw na magkasunod yung 1 and 2 is 1 in 100. Now, yung probability na 1, 2, 3 magkakasunod siya mabunot mo is 1 in 1,000. So, so on and so forth. Okay, so sabi niya, by the same reasoning, so many exacting conditions are necessary for life on the earth that they could not possibly exist in proper relation by chance. So what he's basically saying is that as far as he have observed, okay, the environment, the organisms, it seems that it doesn't go that way. Okay, hindi siya by chances lang nangyayari. Pati yung mga life processes natin. Okay? You see, even the movements of the blood in our body, meron siyang specific directions. Kung saan siya i-exit, saan siya lalabas. It doesn't seem to, ay, gusto ko lang dumaan dito. Hindi ganun. Ano? It doesn't do like that. And even yung, kung babasahin niyo pa yung other reasons niya, even though yung pag-migrate ng mga fish, they seem to have that in their system. So meron silang proseso, okay? Life on Earth consists of many processes, and these aren't for him. This doesn't just occur because of chances. May mga exacting condition, just like the distance of the Earth from the Sun, even its rotation on its axis. Kaya 'di ba planet Earth lang ang may life, okay? And he stated here that the Earth rotates on its axis 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. Sabi niya, kung hindi ganon, so di ba we have 24 hours, okay, in a day. But if it doesn't rotate on its axis 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, if it turned at 100 miles an hour, yung days daw natin and nights would be 10 times as long as now. So what could be the implication of that? Well, syempre, mas mahaba yung oras ng umaga, mas mahaba din yung oras ng gabi. What could possibly happen? According to him, the sun would likely burn up plants or vegetation sa sobrang haba ng araw. Tapos naman sa mga times na mahaba ang gabi, okay? Yung mamamatay din yung mga vegetation because the surviving sprout might well freeze. Okay, lalo na dun sa mga areas where they have yan, 4 seasons. Again, the source of our life has a surface temperature of 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So sabi niya, you could check also if this data is still the most updated surface temperature of the sun, okay? Because this article was written in 1948. Okay, so has a surface temperature of 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and our Earth is just far enough away so that this eternal life warms us just enough and not too much. Okay, so sabi niya nga, if the sun's heat is only half of its present radiation ang umaabot sa Earth, life on Earth would freeze, meaning walang magsasurvive. Pero naman, kung sobra naman than its usual surface temperature ang meron, life on Earth would roast. Wala ring mabubuhay. So for him, that is the exacting condition of this necessary for life to exist on Earth. And that he believes is controlled by the sovereignty of God. That's why these are one of the reasons why si Chrissy Morrison, as a scientist, believes in God. And he added, the slant of the earth tilted at an angle of 23 degrees, which gives us our seasons. If the earth had not been so tilted, vapors from the ocean would move north and south, piling up for us continents of ice. Grabe na, interconnected siya, interrelated. This is also what I learned in environmental management. You can't just manage the land, okay? You can't just take care of the ocean. You can't just take care of the atmosphere because lahat yun ay interrelated. So parang in life din, you can't just be mindful of one aspect. Inalagaan mo yung love life mo, pero yung pag-aaral mo, hindi. Or yung family life mo, hindi. Yung spiritual life mo, hindi. Kasi interrelated siya. May effect siya sa bawat aspect ng iyong life. So that's what I also realized. Even in your work, even in your studies, may effect yung ibang what's going on with the other aspects of your life. And so it is with Earth. Okay? So if our moon, sabi niya naman, were say only 15,000 miles away instead of its actual distance. So do you know the actual distance of the moon from the earth? Ayan. So sabi niya, may effect daw yun kung hindi yung actual distance ngayon ng moon to the earth ay ano mangyayari? So right now, the actual distance of um, moon to the earth, okay? Kung sa kilometro, take note, parang 384,400 kilometers ang kanyang layo from the earth. Grabe, ano? So, ganun. So, kung i-ano natin sa milya, sa miles, around 200, ang estimate niya is 252,088 miles. Yun yung kanyang average distance from the Earth. Pero sabi ni Cresson, kung hindi ganon, 252,088 miles away ang moon sa Earth, alam niyo ba kung ano daw mangyayari? Our tides might be so enormous, ang lalaki, because ang gravity, ang gravitational pull at saka yung moon ay may effect siya sa ating high tide and low tide. Yan. So our tides might be so big, enormous, that twice a day all continents would be submerged. Even the mountains could soon be eroded away. So sabi niya naman, kung yung thickness daw ng crust of the earth, okay? Yung kung pinag-aralan niyo naman yung geosphere, 'di ba, sa earth science. Kung yung crust of the earth daw had only been 10 feet thicker, there would be no oxygen, without which animal life must die. So what do we realize here? Interconnected din, 'di ba? What's happening outside the earth, inside, and between. Okay? Lahat na nangyayari in the ocean, in the land, and on air, and beyond, may effect sa buhay, pati yung distance. So what Cresson was trying to establish here is that there is this exact measurement, intelligent design. So he believes that only a sovereign God and a designer, a great being could do this. And this, he doesn't believe sa mga theories that things just randomly, join together and then form organisms and then nag-evolve. So hindi yung ganun ang kanyang paniniwala. So as a teacher, you could present this to your students. This is how the scientist claims, and these are the evidences he presented. Okay, so you can also present to them different theories, pero sila yung magpa-process doon sa kanilang mga isipan kasi nasa constructivist tayo. Ang ating teaching strategy or philosophy in K to 12 ay yung estudyante would process the information presented to them and they would be able to arrive, generate, and evaluate those. And then that would be their basis for doing their practices. So mahalaga talaga kung ano i-instill mo sa mga bata because that could have an effect in their other belief systems in life. So para kay Morrison, there is not one chance in billions that life is an accident. Okay. So I was able to apply this to a student. One day he told me in his speech that he thinks it's just an accident. Perhaps he has a family problem. And yun yung kanyang naisip na perhaps, ma'am, a life on earth is just an accident. I'm just here by accident. So he doesn't think he has a purpose. He doesn't believe in that. But by doing critiquing, by showing them this article, meron siya mga realizations. So, it's up to you. That could affect your students' value, belief, with the data or information that you're going to present to them. So, I agree with Cressy Morrison. So, it's up to you to process this. But what I'm trying to say is proficiency in science would also reflect or result in proficiency in other things. Hindi lamang knowledge ang kanilang magigain. Okay, so in the K to 12 curriculum, since it is learner-centered and inquiry-based, you allow the students to process. Hindi laging lecture, hindi laging ikaw mag-spoon feed. That was in the Aristotle or the old type of system. Okay, wherein all teachers have to do is present them information. But this time, mas marami yung practice. You just facilitate learning. Although, hindi din na mawawala ang lecture. Lecture is still an important part of learning. Okay? Listening is still an important skill that you have to learn. Okay? So, ang emphasis given in the K to 12 is the use of evidence in constructing explanations. Hindi pwede yung magsasabi ka lang na, ay, ano, um, hindi maganda yung performance niya. Hindi din pwedeng sabihin mo lang na, ay, hindi totoong may Diyos. Or hindi totoo na sa ang may buhay lang ay sa earth. You should be able to gather evidence before you construct explanation. Yun yung gustong mangyari ng K-12 curriculum sa mga estudyante. The problem is with the existence of Google and of other sources na to train din yung ibang bata to just copy paste the answer even without reading, okay, even without synthesizing and evaluating it. So pagdating sa explanation, either they would just copy paste the explanation of others. It's okay to read and copy. It's okay to do that, but you have to make sure that you can still explain it in your own words, and then you really understood their explanation. That's why you agree with them. Okay? So, yun ang mahalaga din. But when, of course, when it comes to the submission of output, ano naman ang gigradean mo if you just copy-pasted it? Okay? The teacher would not be able to assess learning from that. Kaya nga may tinatawag tayong yung mga standards. Kasi hindi lang objective yung tinitignan, like you're able to get 100% doon sa test by just looking at Google or asking your classmates. Pero pagdating sa demo, nasagutan mo yung objective test pero hindi ka makapagturo sa demo. So meaning, hindi pa rin mo na-acquire yung skills. Okay, yung sinasabing competency. Kasi, yes, you have the skill to copy. And then, of course, be selective also of what you copy. Pero kulang yon. That's not the skill that we want to instill sa ating mga estudyante. Okay, so I'm going to present to you later the different nature of competencies. So in K-12 curriculum, we have life sciences, physics, chemistry, and earth sciences. And from kindergarten to senior high school. Pero may different levels lang of difficulty, complexity, competencies expected from the student. And it should be integrated to the understanding of those scientific concepts must be integrated to their life and that they can do something about, that they can make use of those concepts to real life situations. So paano mo magagamit and what is this curriculum for? Of course, this is what you will be teaching in the entire course or yeah, sa educational system natin. But it also provides us with a curriculum guide. So normally, together with other educational supervisors and other experts in the field, ang curriculum guide ay ginagawa. So what is a curriculum guide? It is a structured document. Okay, what can you see there? It's an application or delineates the philosophy, teaching philosophies, learning goals, objectives, learning activities or experiences, instructional resources, and assessments that comprise a specific educational program. So, ang curriculum guide, yun lang po yung paper or document which would show you as a teacher, okay, how and what your students should know and be able to do in the course you are teaching. And this will also serve as your guide in knowing how to achieve those learning goals. Okay. So yung curriculum guide is a template for us teachers. So you might not use it as is, meaning you could still contextualize, modify it. Kasi hindi naman lahat ng learning materials ng performance standards could be performed by your students. Specifically, magkakaiba-iba ang school ng mga availability of materials. Magkakaiba-iba din ng profile ang mga estudyante. Magkakaiba-iba din yung example that you could give them. Magkakaiba-iba if yung mga student mo are from the remote areas or from the city. So, yun class, you have to be aware of that because maganda because we have textbooks made by Filipino authors. At least, medyo mas madali na ang pag-contextualize. But in some science, mostly, mga science books class are either European or Western, mga American authors. So, of course, ang mga examples na ibinibigay nila ay mga mga from their own places too and from their life experiences there. So hindi pwedeng yun lang ang lagi mong gamitin kasi hindi man makaka-relate. As an example, I teach meteorology in Bicol University College students, a major in biology. So ang gamit kong textbook ay Western. So mga gamit niyang explanation yung weather, maps and models sa States, United States, at saka yung mga nangyayaring hydrometeorological hazards sa ibang bansa. So, hindi makaka-relate ang mga estudyanteng Filipino doon. So, as a teacher, yun, doon papasok yung modify mo ng mga activities and then explanation and examples that you'll be using. So here, class, is just a guide on how curriculum guide is prepared. Okay, so it considers the growth and development of a learner. It, of course, considers, and you have also to check if it's aligned with your philosophy in the school system. But basically, lahat na tayo K to 12, so ganon. Then, if you have clear convictions it has clear convictions about teaching and learning, and it presents you instructional activities to meet the needs of your diverse learners. Take note, diverse. Ibang estudyante, iba't ibang ugali, iba't ibang background, iba't ibang level of proficiency. Okay, and so on and so forth. So curriculum guide is an important aspect important thing that you have to study and get knowledge or understanding of in the preparation of your instructional plan. And the mas maganda class, if while I am talking, okay, you have a copy of an example of a curriculum guide ng isang science. So let's say sa grade 1 or grade 2, grade 3 na science lesson para you could really understand what I am talking about. So when you check or see a curriculum guide in the K to 12 educational program, you will eventually see these terms. Okay, competency, content, learner, standard. Yan. So when you see this in a curriculum guide, ito yung ano niya, definition ng term niya by DepEd. So competency, it refers to skill performed with varying degrees of independence. It has different degrees of difficulty and performance levels. So it also refers to the ability to perform activities according to the standards expected by drawing from one's knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Okay, so pag sinabi mo competency, may specific skill or ability na ano, mini-measure ka. Okay? But how do you do that? Mayroong standard. Okay? You measure the competency or skill based on the set standards. Okay? Sa naman yun, um, mayroong tinatawag tayong content standard. Okay? Pero yung content itself na makikita nyo in a curriculum guide, it just means these are the scope and sequence of topics and skills covered in each strand, domain, theme, or component of the educational program. Standard naman, ito na nga po. Here is how you measure the competency when it comes to their knowledge, skills, values. Dito mo na ipinagkukumpara yon. Ito yung point of reference mo. Okay? So, it is for the purpose of determining accuracy, estimating quantity. So, may numerical equivalent. Or judging quality ng performance ng isang bata or learning ng isang bata. Okay? So, it is a stated expectation of what one should know and be able to do. So, makikita mo, content standard is it is the stated expectation of what one should know in the course. Pag nabasa niyo yan sa curriculum guide. Pag nabasa niyo naman yung performance standard, it is the expectation of what one should be able to do out of what they learn or the knowledge presented to them in the course. Of course, ito din, learner. Kayo po yung mga learners. But I'm dealing to you, talking to you as a future teacher. So yung mga learners natin are diverse, regardless of their age, sex, ethnicity, culture, and religion and ability, enrolled in basic education to enhance their knowledge, skills, values, to improve the quality of his or her life, and to develop his or her potential. I hope you see your students this way. You are there not just to tell them the information and then tapos na, wala ka nang pakialam. You must also make sure that your students are learning. They're developing a skill. At ito, wag niyong kakalimutan yung values. If you have the discipline, hindi mawawala sa teacher yung classroom discipline, which is so hard to do right now, but must implement. Okay? You know why? Because you are training kids. At malaki ang accountability mo as a teacher kung ano itinuturo mo sa kanila because they will be future teachers, future leaders, future educators, and you as a teacher, meron kang major role in honing them. Okay? Ikaw yung isa sa mga models nila. Okay? So ako, kahit science subject to, I want you to respect someone who is in authority of you. So, in speech, in chat, or in whatsoever way, hindi siya dapat mawala just because it's pandemic. Okay? And this is something so valuable even pag kayo na rin yung teacher. Siguro mas ma-appreciate niyo yan when you become a teacher and when you become a worker. Some of you are already working right now. And I hope that you understand that and instill that value. You discipline, sabi nga sa Bible, when you love someone, you discipline them. Okay? Wala kang, narinig mo na yung mga estudyante mo, nagmumura, narinig mo na nag-disrespect ng ibang teacher. One time in DCOMC, some of my students, pagkatapos ng class ko, ay grupo silang lumabas because they don't want to attend the next class. So I reprimanded them. I approached them the next meeting because even if it's not my class, because their teacher was, let's say, didn't check the attendance or iba naman yung kanyang requirement. But still, I don't want them to think na, oh, I just have to respect this certain teacher and not respect the other one. Or papasok ako dito sa subject na to, dun sa isa hindi. So, anong made-develop niyan sa inyo as a teacher? Magiging ganun ka din when you become a professional. Ito type ko 'to, gagawin ko. Hindi, ay hindi ko gagawin. Hindi gano'n ang trabaho. So whether you like it or not, you have to do that and you have to do it with passion. You have to teach even if you have also personal concerns. And even if you that's work. That's part of your duty. That's part of your responsibility. And your students, believe me, class, you're accountable for what you share, what you instill in them as young kids. I hope that you will instill that na kahit science yung tinuturo nyo, you can teach them life lessons, reflections, napakaraming pwede mong ituro. And you can make use of the curriculum guide in preparing your instructional plan, in developing your and designing your lesson. Okay? So, kung may lalagyan natin ng hierarchy. So, syempre, you have to understand the K-12 system. Then you have the curriculum guide that will help you in preparing your instructional plan. Then your instructional plan should be aligned to the lesson plans that you will be preparing. Okay? So here are the specific steps that you must do on how you can utilize the curriculum guide in the preparation of your instructional plans. So syempre, kailangan mo pag-aralan yung mga nabanggit natin kaninang mga standards and competencies. You have to familiarize yourself, not just familiarize, but to really understand. Yung big picture, makita ninyo. Okay? So, this will help you be with the same page sa administration ng curriculum, whether it's CHED, DepEd, or any private institution. You should be on the same page. The same page kayo sa goal at saka sa content na ipepresent mo sa mga bata, as well as yung teacher at yung mga bata, you're also on the same page. That's why they also have to know about what you are going to teach. Para sa ang purpose yan? What would I benefit from that? Okay? So itong unpacking or unwrapping or deconstructing, ito yung way mo of making use of the curriculum guide para may gawin kang step-by-step na action. Okay? So, ang resulta nito, of course, ay yung makapagpaplano ka. Okay? For your, how you would be able to apply the curriculum guide to your instructional plan and how would you align your lesson plan to that. And then, aside from that, kasama na doon yung ikaw mismo na teacher, yung standards na sinet mo sa estudyante mo, ay higit ka siyempre doon. Kasi may mastery ka na doon sa mga pinapagawa mo sa kanila. Or else, you couldn't tell if they have really, kumbaga, nag-excel talaga sila. Or talagang, na-meet nila yung standard. Kung ikaw mismo, you don't know what the standard is. Okay. Hindi pwede yung okay na yan, pwede na yan. Ay, ito mabait to sa akin, 100%. Ay, ito, siya, pala-recite siya, 90%. So, hindi lang ganun ang pag-grade. Okay? So, yun nga, may iba't ibang competencies that you check. Okay? At magmamanifest yun in their oral, in their values, and in their outputs. Okay? So, here are the specific steps that you should undertake when you develop your instructional plan. Before you do that, you must, analyze the standard. So, in the curriculum guide, you are presented with the science curriculum guide for K-12 presents us with 3 types of standards. Okay? Generally, a standard articulates what a student should know, understand, and be able to do by the end of the course, year, or semester. And they set equitable benchmarks. Equitable for diverse learners, ito pa rin, merong nakaset na point of reference of how these diverse learners should be evaluated. Okay? So, ayan yung comparison ng content and then performance standard. Sa content standard, basically, you are going to answer the question, what do the students want to know, be able to do, and understand? Okay? So, ito, i-establish mo yung what the students want to know at the beginning of the course. What are they expecting to learn? Kasi let's say, general biology. General nga siya, no? So, tatanungin mo yung mga estudyante mo, ano bang in-expect nilang malaman? So, now that you know na, ito yung perception nila, you're gonna correct it or give them a guideline. Ito lang, class. Ito lang ang pag-aaralan natin. These are just the set of topics. Okay? And here are also the set of skills and values that you must be able to do and understand. Doon na yon sa content standard. Present mo lang sa kanila. Pero paano malaman that what you have presented, what you have taught them, ay talagang naintindihan nila? So, you are going to set a performance standard. So, here are some learning activities wherein you can measure their performance. Na that would tell you that they have learned, they have understood the lesson, and they were able to use those learning through the output they have prepared. Okay, so and so on and so forth. Okay, so here are the three types of standards. This is the general core learning area standard. Okay, kumbaga ito yung pinaka central learning area standard from K to 12 science. So from kindergarten to grade 12, the students or learners must demonstrate understanding of basic science concepts and applications of science inquiry skills. Take note of application. So hindi lang nalaman, dapat na i-apply. They exhibit. Ibig sabihin, you observe that they have already the scientific attitudes and values, like they know how to solve problems critically, innovative beneficial, they could make innovative beneficial products, na-enhance ang kanilang integrity and wellness. And they are able to make informed decisions and ito din, engage in discussions of relevant issues that involve science, technology, and environment. Okay, so for the DEC Ed elementary curriculum or science curriculum, nahahati siya sa mga key stages. We have kindergarten to grade 3, grades 4 to 6, grades 7 to 10, and grades 11 to 12. So here's an example of the key standards for each key stage. Okay, basahin ko lang yung first example and then you can just read through the other four. So sa grade 3, so kung grade 3 ang tinuturuan mo, dapat makita mo 'to sa kanila, no? As a result of nadaanan nila yung kinder, grade 1, grade 2, and 3. So at the end of grade 3, okay, the learners should have acquired helpful habits and have developed curiosity about self and their environment using basic process skills or scientific skills like observing, communicating, comparing, classifying, measuring, inferring, and predicting. This curiosity will help learners value science as an important tool in helping them continue to explore their natural and physical environment. Okay, this should also include developing scientific knowledge or concepts. So you see, class, pag binasa mo ulit yung key stage or standard, di ba? Holistic naman siya. Hindi lang knowledge ang ipapasa mo sa kanila. Dapat na-acquire na nila yung healthful habits. Kasi you're teaching them about life science, how to take care of the environment, how to take care of themselves. So, in doing so, ay makakapag-develop na sila ng curiosity about self and their environment. Okay? Meron pa class, may grade level standard pa. So here are the examples of those. Basahin ko lang specifically yung grade level science. Sa science, ito yung mga grade level standards for grade 2. At the end of grade 2, learners will use their senses to explore and describe the functions of their senses. So very basic ito ng human anatomy and physiology, which is part of life science. But they must be able to know this basic or foundational info, or else mahirapan sila sa junior and senior high. Okay, so mapapansin nyo hindi lang life science. Meron ding application ng information or knowledge about other branches of science such as chemistry and physics. Discussion ng matter. And even earth and space science or environmental science. Let's take a look at this. Compare two or more objects and using two or more properties, sort things in different ways, and give a reason for doing so. Describe the kind of weather or certain events in the home or school and express how these are affecting them. So kung ikaw ay is excited na teacher, baka ang dami-dami mo nang na i-discuss. Pero pag hindi mo tinignan yung grade level standard, baka yung most important thing that they should learn from that ay hindi nila may apply. So pag dumating na sila sa next level, yung itong mga mahahalagang concept ay hindi pa established sa kanila, mahihirapan sila pag umakyat sila sa another level. Okay? Kasi ang K to 12, increasing yung complexity niya. So from the very basic to an increasing level of complexity. Kaya mayroon daw mastery. Kaya mahalagang tumitingin ka din as a teacher doon sa key stage standard, grade level standard, core learning standard. So yun lang naman ang gusto ng ipahiwatig nito. Ano? Na wag ka lang basta-basta lang pasok turo, gagawa ka ng lesson in just 20 minutes, tapos. And you think you have achieved, nakascore ng 10 yung mga estudyante mo, pero hindi mo pinag-isipan. Yung kailangan ba nilang matutunan, ay natutunan nila. Naituro ko ba yung dapat nilang matutunan? Okay, so analyze the standard. Second, determine the target domain of competency. So may target ka dapat. May target ka, pero dapat malaman mo kung ano yung ita-target mo. Example, ito. Sa itong G3, grade 3 ang ibig sabihin yan, class. So grade 3, first quarter, ang target mo ay matter. So ang lessons mo dapat about matter. Nandun naman yan sa curriculum guide. Second quarter, dapat living things na ang lesson mo and their environment. Third quarter, force, motion, and energy na. And then, earth and space na. Okay? So kung may mga nakita kayong na-download na kayong curriculum guide, makikita nyo itong mga codes na to. Ang ibig lang sabihin yan ay yung component. Okay? Dominar component. So here, here's an example of a competency and then yung equivalent domain niya. Pero ito nagkabaliktad class. Describe the sources of light and sound and heat and electricity. Ang domain niya dapat ay FE, force, motion, and energy. Itong practice safety and precautionary measures in dealing with different types of weather. Ang domain niya ay earth and space. All right? So once you have, the target domain, okay, na-analisa mo na yung standards. Then, na-determine mo na yung target na domain. Now, you have to determine the nature of competencies. In what area? Knowledge, skills, and values. Okay, so pag sinabing, describe the sources of light, sound, heat, and electricity, ang tinitingnan mo nitong competency ay yung knowledge ng bata. So, sa practice na, the word practice, ibig sabihin, napaperform niya, so skill na. So, pang-apat, determine the topic or content and time allotment. Although sa curriculum guide, nakalagay naman na yung mga set of topics and content. Pero yung execution nun, yun yung pagpaplanuhan mo. Yung time allotment nun, sa profile ng mga estudyante mo, baka karamihan slow learners. So, you have to also, adjust and find ways on how you can deal with those who are, kung marami sa kanila ay slow. Pagdating sa subject na yon. Not saying in all subjects kasi iba-iba ang intelligence ng mga bata. Okay? Kaya 'di ba, yung iba magagaling sa PE pero hindi sila magaling sa science. So ganun, you have to adjust and evaluate that one. So, ayan na, nakalagay na class yung competency, nature, and topic, which you would also see in a curriculum guide. Then, assessment din. Ito, as you prepare your instructional plan, ito naman yung pag-iisipan mo, yung assessment strategy. So, may tinatawag tayong the backward design framework, okay? Kasi once you have established na alam mo na yung mga competencies. Okay? The second stage is to involve the consideration of assessment. So yung competencies mo, yun yung parang umbrella or that will guide you, contextualize your topics and then your discussion, pati yung time allotment. Ganon din naman, you should be able to plan kung how you will assess. Mm-mm. Bago mo pag-isipan yung paano mo ituturo yung content. Okay? So, marami ka palang i-consider as a teacher, not just the delivery and instruction, but as well as the guide, the plan, and then how you will assess them. So, here I'm showing you the assessment strategy for this particular topic. So, in this example, ang ginamit so 2 weeks ang allotment sa pagtuturo ng sources of light, sound, heat, and energy, and electricity. And yung competency, dapat may knowledge sila. Meaning, paano masabi may knowledge sila? Nadi-describe na nila yung different sources of light, sound, heat, and electricity. So, how do you know if they can already describe? So, pwede kang magbigay ng short quiz. And then you can ask them to describe it by showing them pictures. Okay, so yun ang example. Next step is to plan learning experiences or activities. So, ang assessment at saka activity, baka naisip natin activity assessment na sa pag-grade sa kanila. So, there are certain activities wherein you're also going to assess them. But here, you are going to make use of activities that will not just assess but pwede ring to motivate them, to stir their curiosity, to sustain their um, drive to learn about that subject. Okay? So the last step is, syempre, kung may learning activity, pwede ka rin gumamit ng learning materials. At ito ang masisipag at saka ang gagaling talaga ng mga elementary teachers in this. But there's also a guideline you have to consider when designing learning materials. Okay? Hindi lang pa-colorfulan or pamahalan, okay? Hindi naman to sa ganun, but also, of course, you need those materials like laboratory materials. But kung wala ka nun, what else should you consider? So, the material should be aligned with the content and performance standards in the curriculum guide. The material should contain activities that allow different forms of interactions among the students and between the teachers and the students. Okay, different forms kasi nga diverse ang yung learners and elementary students have short span. Okay? Attention span. Kaya kailangan mo mag-develop ng different ways to sustain the lesson. So may varied and combination of activities kang gagawin. Pwedeng individual, group activities, simulations or role plays, and so on and so forth, and use of technology. Okay? And they must be given adequate time and opportunities to acquire knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And opportunities must be provided for the students to develop an understanding of scientific inquiry. Content should be accurate and developmentally appropriate for the learners. Ayan. So, kaya nga, i-consider mo yung level niya, yung age niya din. And then yung proficiency level niya. Opportunities to learn should be consistent with contemporary models of learning. There should be consistency between learning goals and assessment. So, dapat akma yung assessment mo doon sa learning objective mo. Na, let's say, sabi mo, describe the tapos iba naman yung assessment mo, hindi naman na-assess kung na-describe nila. So, kung describe na the sources of ang iyong light, ang iyong objective sa tinuturo mong lesson, dapat yung assessment mo would show you na, nadi-describe na nga ng estudyante ko. Okay? So, assessment should stress the application of concepts to near or different, to new or different situation. So, ganun class, I hope that this will help you in your preparation as well as in doing the next set of activities in this course, as well as at the end of this course, I would also assess your competency, meaning your knowledge and your skills. Knowledge means how you answer orally and in written form paano ka mag-reason out, what are your claims, and then yung skill naman, titignan ko kung sa demo mo, na i-apply mo nga yung inilagay mo sa yung plano, and that you were able to apply the strategies, as well as the assessment, learning activities, learning materials that you have prepared. So I'm hoping na hindi na ako makakakita ng mga typical Manila paper in the demos. Kasi that's one way of telling me that you really learned. And na makikita mo, yung in-apply mo nga talaga, yung pwedeng gamitin mong strategy in teaching science sa iyong mga elementary students. But another thing, pati yung values class, kasama yan. Scientific attitudes and values, integrity, respect, pagiging ethical mo as a student, kasama po yan sa pag-agrado sa inyo, syempre. Hindi pwedeng ang galing mo sumagot sa test, ang galing mo din sa demo, pero wala ka namang ugali. Okay? So all of these, it goes hand in hand. Okay? It has to be assessed as a whole. Okay? The attitude, the skills, and the knowledge of the student. And of course, we employ here yung ating um, mga strategies such as constructivism, social cognition, and others. Depende din po yan sa inyo. So, in our next lessons, we will be dealing na po with the specific strategies that you will be using in teaching elementary students. So, here are the sources for the um, inputs I have presented here. So I hope you learned something from our discussions today. So thank you, class. Bye.